Yes, we're
Oh,
live.
perfect. We are live.
Oh, good afternoon and happy Friday, wherever you're tuning in
Happy
from.
Friday.
We're back with 10 years of Ethereum, celebrating 10 years of building on this network that we love, this decentralized future. Let's make it a reality. And today we are here with Jeff. Jeff is one of the top marketers in the crypto space, communicating a message, cutting through all the noise and nonsense. Jeff is your guy. So welcome to the broadcast, Jeff. I'm joined by my co-host Chinmay, and Chinmay, you can take it away.
Awesome. Thanks so for the intro for the more. But hey, Jeff, you and I know each other for a while now. You are the reason for Jump Nation, the community you create of marketers, and that gave me a lot of confidence in terms of like how can I get into more marketing. As a builder, marketing was foreign to me. So, but like I know your history, but I would love to hear. I would love to get the viewers to get your history of like how crazy you were in the early Facebook days and how the Jump Nation came about and everything around that. Please take over.
Cool. Yeah, I'm going to try to do the 60-second version. So
Let's
the
start.
first most important fact about my career and journey is the first social campaign that I ever launched and marketing effort online at the intersection of social was on MySpace, 2005. So as we celebrate 10 years of Ethereum this year, I am celebrating 20 years of doing this thing called social media, seeing the evolution of it all, trying to predict and kind of see where things were going. So yeah, in 2005, I started running social media campaigns. At the time, the term social media marketing didn't even exist. Like I was in college. I was like, how do I do this professionally? There were no jobs to do it professionally at that time. Saw the trend heading to Facebook. 2007, launched ads on Facebook the day Facebook released the self-serve platform. I was literally in a college class working on my client's business, running an ad campaign in 2007.
Wow.
So I've seen every iteration of organic social, paid social, the transition from desktop to mobile, how enterprise brands transitioned into the space. The first major brand I worked with was Fruit of the Loom, then Chick-fil-A, then GameStop, Dr. Pepper, Snapple. So did that for a long time, spent over $200 million in social media marketing budgets through my team. 2021 came around, always interested in crypto. Ethereum has always been my home base. I've always liked the people in Ethereum, liked the projects in Ethereum. Culturally, I just always gravitated towards what was going on in and around Ethereum. And when I started to look at the space, I was like, there seems like this whole new world of social and like community and kind of all this stuff that's emerging. So I got super into it, launched a community for it called Jump. The most recent iteration is jumpintothefuture.com. When I launched Jump, it was mostly known for Jump into Web3, which in 2020 was like a good sort of marketing kind of position and tagline. But I called the community Jump because at its highest level, its most ambitious mission is to jump into the future.
It's amazing.
That's its core. So I finally transitioned to that .com as well.
I just saw that. I went to Jump Nation XYZ and I couldn't find it. And then I'm like, oh yeah, it's Jump into the Future. And I typed it. I'm like, yep, it's there. So this is perfect, right? Like you and I have talked a lot about like culture, community, and everything around it. But I want to hear your first interaction with crypto, first interaction with Ethereum, and what was your like reaction to that? Like, why did you think that this is something that will work or this will not work? Like, what were your hesitations as well? So I want to hear those pros and cons in your head.
The very first aha and like mind-blowing moment that I had that doesn't really exist anymore, but like fundamentally it's still true, is when I was able to buy an asset or buy a thing, a piece of content, at the time NFTs, but literally just think of it as content. Buy a digital good, whether it's a service, a course, a picture, whatever. But the act of being able to buy something digitally in one location and then connect with that group of people in other platforms. So the prime example is in 2020, you bought an NFT on OpenSea and then you connected with everybody in Discord. That, as someone who's been in social for a long time, blew my mind. Like that was fundamental. That still is fundamentally unbelievably cool.
So how is it different than like a Facebook group? Like I know we never talked about this, but like how is it different than a regular Facebook group that is curated by the admin themselves?
Well, how do you buy something on eBay and then get permissioned into that Facebook group?
Mm-hmm.
So like, let's say
of ownership.
Yeah, let's say like I'm really into like mowing my yard. I actually love it. I love mowing my yard. So I like, let me go find a group of, dads that mow their yards and geek out about mowing their yards and kind of all that stuff. And there happens to be like, the only way to get into that Facebook group is to own certain pieces of equipment. Well, how do you permission, that? Like, how do you like, it's just like, how do you permission getting into that Facebook group? It's just like, there's ways that like, yeah, you can go to that Facebook group and you can like become a subscriber. I don't even know. I don't even use Facebook groups that much, but like you brought it up as an example. It's just like, you can't be on some totally different platform, buy something or do some sort of behavior, and then go to a totally new platform and get permissioned into that.
Gotcha. So proven ownership that basically converts into some kind of group behavior. That's what you're referring to.
Yeah, and really, when I saw what these like digital goods, like whether it's a NFT or a ERC, like doesn't matter what the token is, the fact that a community of people could own that thing and then they could move around the internet as a tribe.
Interesting. Okay.
Crypto is the only thing that I see, and blockchain is the only thing that I see that can do that. The friction though right now, and the reason why we haven't really seen it take off at scale is because that front end, the Facebook group experience, or like the actual, I call it portal. There's no good portals. Like, and buying the token and managing it and connecting it to a portal to then, I view the Facebook group and these things as like these portals, and the tokens allow you to go in and out of these portals to connect like with people in new worlds. But like the UX and the experience is so shitty. It doesn't
work that way. Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. Mark, do you have follow-up?
Well, yeah, I think your Web2 references over here are really helpful, because I think if we get it right, it'll kind of seem that we're just operating in Web2, right?
Yeah.
While getting all the value from Web3. So do you think that Web3 in its best form is Web2 plus money? Is that a statement what do you think of that statement?
I would say
before.
That I definitely can't say like Web3 in its best form is Web2 plus money. But only because that's like such a bold statement to say Web3 in its best form is this.
Like, so maybe I jumped the gun slightly. Not in its best form, but in its most smooth form in terms of a user experience. Because I know that we have a lot of aspects of Web3 that we want to use to improve Web2, like better data sovereignty, better control over our privacy, and the ability to opt out of things as well, which is what Web3 is famous for. But in terms of the actual experience of using the application, it should be as easy as clicking a button. And
I don't see how you can use Web3 without Web2.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So to answer your question, Web3 in a really useful form, an unbelievably useful form, is Web2 plus money, plus crypto, plus tokens.
Ownership.
I like to just say Web2 plus tokens. Mm-hmm. And tokens, or because you can have, I don't know. Yeah, just Web 2 plus tokens / ownership and like whatever shape those kind of take. So yeah, I totally agree with that. But like, I don't understand a world where like Web 3 can like operate and thrive totally on its own without Web 2 in no capacity. I don't understand. I'm not smart enough technically. It might exist. Chinmay might understand how that happens. I don't.
No, I actually think like Web 3 without Web 2 doesn't exist, and Web 2 doesn't happen without Web 1, right? Like,
And what did we
it's the same thing.
When in 2020 with OpenSea and Discord, that was what it was. It was Web 2 with Web 3.
Web 2 plus ownership verification, right? Back in 2018, one of my friend basically introducing me to more concept of crypto, and in nutshell, the conclusion of the conversation was like, yeah, it's all about ownership, and if you can prove your ownership, and if you can go from there, anywhere you can take your ownership with you, that's what crypto is all about.
So
whether it's like legal and everything is different problems altogether.
So something I want to kind of put out there that I've been thinking a lot about, because because Web3 has really struggled in terms of like what is the value and business model outside of like it being mostly a casino. Like that's the best business model that it's created is like a casino, and like that's fine. And there's kind of some other niche stuff, but if we're talking about like at scale, like Web3 is really a casino right now. That doesn't mean that it can't evolve into something better. But I think like people are so focused on the tech and the tactics, and I just think that everyone is missing the strategy. And so something that I've been obsessed with, both because of like frustrations I've had with crypto, also with this like boom of AI, the intersection of the two. Every day you see this new AI tool, this new crypto project, like. And if you really boil it down, it's all tactical kind of stuff that's being kind of thrown at us. How to prompt, how to launch a token, it's all tactics. So I've actually been massively obsessed with the book called 7 Powers. Are either of you familiar with that book?
No, I need to look it up.
So I'm actually going to like start writing about this in the newsletter and connecting it to crypto and AI. And future tech in general. To me, the book 7 Powers is the ultimate business strategy book. Any strategy book, whether it's marketing, it doesn't matter. If it looks at a pyramid, 7 Powers sits on the top, and then it just floods into, everything ladders up to that. And really what the 7 Powers is, in business, there are 7 powers that if a business dominates one or more of those powers, they can be an incredible business.
Okay.
And so like, I'm not going to run through them. I'm going to it's just, I don't want to take up the whole time with that. But to me, like I'm starting to look at crypto and AI through the lens of the 7 powers, and then identifying which power to like dive into, and then following the trail of like tactical execution that need to occur in order for a project or a business to capture one of those 7 powers.
Gotcha. Okay, I would love to get more into it. Maybe when we talk more a little bit about AI at the later end of it.
Yeah.
Because again, this sounds interesting. But I would like to get back to a little bit to Ethereum right now. And in Ethereum, the community-wise, I remember you wrote a piece on CoinDesk about decentralization social will revolutionize marketing. And you're talking quite a bit about Farcaster, and Farcaster has itself gone in the cycle for the last 12 months. Do you want to go through go through what it was at that time and how much of it is true at this point in time?
Yeah, the thesis that I have about decentralized social hasn't changed. But tactically, there's been a ton of experiments since then, and I don't know how decentralized social actually manifests itself. I just know that it's totally a thing. And so one of the framings that I have, or one of the things that I think about, is most people, what do they think about decentralized social? They think Farcaster. And yes, I like to talk about Farcaster, but I actually think Ethereum is a decentralized social network itself.
Okay.
Why? Because you can hold any number of Ethereum tokens or ETH itself. And if you hold ETH, you could gather in some sort of portal or UI with other ETH holders and have a social experience. You could use a social network. And so to me, what is social? It is a social network. What is a social network? It's a group of people on some sort of database that are connected in some way. And so when you think about just a blockchain in and of itself, it is a social graph. Ethereum is a social graph. Ethereum is a social network.
Gotcha. So you're talking about like Ethereum as a social network from the context of everyone's social activities in terms of ownership resides on Ethereum.
Well, and the essence of what is a social network, I think a good way to think about it is a social graph.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. But what does social graph entail? Like, is it like the ownership aspect of it, or is it more like when I see social graph, I think about like my social profile, like I'm assuming like previous example of Facebook, and then all the posts I made, all the comments I made, all the DMs I have, all the conversations I had with my friends, likes and everything around that. That's my social graph. How does it translate into Ethereum as a social, like Ethereum as a social graph itself?
So all the actions, everything that you've done on Ethereum, all the transactions, it's all creating a bunch of data about you and about everybody else. And then you can very easily create clusters of people of like, here's your DeFi people. That's a social graph. Like, here are the yield farmers, here are the people that ape into every project, and you can create clusters of people. And like, that is a social graph. Think of a social graph as like tribes or communities, and tribes or communities, they can be defined in a lot of different ways. So they can be defined in what they do. They can be defined in the beliefs that they hold.
Interesting. Okay. I buy that. Like once you have that Ethereum as like, if you go to chinmay.eth, or if you go to basically Etherscan or blockchain.com and open chinmay.eth as a domain or as a ENS, you'll see all my activity, and you will be able to see that I was into certain meme coins. I was I've used Uniswap, and based on that, you will also find Farcaster. You will also find Lens. Or you also find other things, and those connections start happening. That's what you mean.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, and real quick before I forget, can y'all just like smile and give a thumbs up?
Oh, my fingers up.
Screenshot, I guess.
Yeah, I'm taking a screenshot right now because I'm going to put y'all in the newsletter.
Nice.
Oh, perfect. Those 5,000 amazing viewers will see me now.
Yeah, we're gonna send that in the newsletter.
No, that's amazing. Like I think 10 years of Ethereum is worth mentioning to the readers.
And I'm kind of glad you brought up newsletters, because I think I've recently started my own, and I found the value in it immediately, because in Web3, everything's so fragmented, right?
Yeah.
If my podcast is on chain, if someone mints it, I just get that wallet address, but there's no way to contact them like, hey, I'm doing something similar to something you collected in the past. Maybe you should watch this space a little bit, right? So I find newsletters this all-important connective tissue. And you participate in a space that moves so fast. So could you tell us a little bit about your thought process about formulating a newsletter messaging strategy for an industry that can turn on a dime, really?
Yeah. When you're writing a newsletter, you have to like figure out what works for you. And I think you also have to mainly lean into like write the newsletter for yourself. Like literally write it as if you were the audience and you were the only person reading it.
So it becomes like a memoir for myself, like my own logs, and 12 months after I can just say, this is what I learned in this month or this week.
Yeah. And so that can then, because you'll hear everyone kind of talk about all these newsletter strategies and different kind of things. Like if you write it for yourself and you're trying to use it as a tool to like sharpen yourself in some way, whether it's like, you know, it could be like, oh, you're trying to like learn about all these like projects. So you just write about all the projects. Cool. For me right now, I'm super interested in these bigger strategy ideas, the book 7 Powers, and then like a bunch of other books, how to then use AI to sharpen my thinking and strategy using concepts from those books. And then how do the strategies impact like how we build companies in Ethereum? How does it impact the strategies a blockchain can take or projects building on the blockchain, blah, 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 all that stuff. So as you read the newsletter, really what you're seeing is just me trying to wrap my head around fundamental strategy concepts and use technology to get better at those concepts, and then use the application of that in real world, like business building and project building. And like that to me is what I'm trying to figure out. Therefore, that's what I'm writing about. And it may incorporate some blockchain stuff, some AI stuff, fundamental business, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, we're all building towards the future. It's one of the reasons why I call ultimately jump into the future. So that's my first point of advice, is to write it for yourself.
That's amazing.
Literally make it like the most interesting time of your week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Basically putting all the ideas into one place and say, hey, this week, I wish I had known this like last week. And so I'm just putting it in for other people.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I'm sure as a marketer, like you're always communicating brand voices, right? This is like a nice little space for you to communicate your own thoughts. So it's a bit of an escape from the client work, kind of.
Yeah. And then the second thing that I massively recommend is to connect with every person on your newsletter, meaning have a Zoom call with every person that subscribes.
Okay. Nice.
Wow. So are you saying that you had like more than 5,000 calls or maybe 1,000 calls for your newsletter?
So when I launched Jump in the beginning in 2020, 2021, everyone who signed up for the community, which was just a newsletter at the time, and now Jump is more or less just a newsletter. We had a period where we were in the Discord, but like it's not, I don't like Discord that much, so we're not in there. When people would sign up for the newsletter, they would get a link to my calendar. Over a course of a year, Chinmay, and you know this, but so someone signs up for the newsletter, and I'm about to implement this again on the current iteration of the newsletter. I took it off for a little while. But when someone signs up for the newsletter, they get the option to schedule time on my calendar.
That's amazing. That's generous. Very generous of you.
You can take a tiny like think about it. People use newsletters totally wrong. They try to build a big newsletter, reach a bunch of people, blah, 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 all this stuff. Well, what if you just built a newsletter that only maybe 750 people will subscribe to over the year, but like you had a call with every single one of them? What do you think would happen to your network?
Mm-hmm. That would go bananas.
It would be 10,000 times more beneficial to you than if you had 20,000 subscribers that you just wrote a newsletter for.
Yeah. Okay, I see it, like high quality ones. Oh, sorry, Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's exactly like meeting with someone for a coffee over meeting someone at a networking meeting for like 20 seconds, right? You can actually have some depth of conversation, connect a little bit more, refine your strategy. This is brilliant. I love this actually. Like,
yeah. And then what do you think
Awesome.
happens to the open rate and the engagement rate and
100%.
people and the people sharing, people engage? Like, you just don't need a big newsletter audience. You just need to write about what you're truly passionate about, and then to connect on calls with everybody that subscribes.
So I had a very interesting chat with Josh, who's on Farcaster. He creates some content. He builds some products as well, and he's trying to create the content as a media, like content for his newsletter and videos and a couple other things. And sustainability is a big problem. So my discussion with him was to focus on content as a lead gen and something else as a core product. You can't have newsletter as a core product when you only have like 500 or 1,000 subscribers, right? Like that's not gonna feed, or that's not gonna put food on the table. It's basically your lead gen, that's your relationship, that's your network, and you have to have something else to offer that is either an agency work or consulting work. Is that the right way to think about it? Because many people are saying, I want to have my passive income with newsletter. That's not that much doable.
The worst idea is to make your newsletter passive income. But like, people don't realize how the actual, like, just block and tackling steps to go from a newsletter and I've got subscribers to then funneling it to that core business, product, service, whatever it is. And really the step is just to reach out and talk to the people and be like, what do you do?
Absolutely.
What do you do? This is what I do. And then here's the beauty of the newsletter. You continue writing, you continue providing value to those people. So it's not just like, oh, I met someone at a networking event. They learned about what I did or what I offer, but then they don't remember me the next 24 hours. No, you maintain that relationship by continuing to provide value via the newsletter. Why are you providing value? Well, if you provide value to yourself via writing the newsletter, you're inevitably providing value to someone else. That's
amazing. Okay. So how much of this process, and now I'm happy to go back to AI a little bit, and we'll probably jump in between AI and Ethereum in some cases, but how much of that writing process is used with AI versus not? And
for me,
what do you use AI for?
Proofreading.
So AI is mostly for proofreading, not the content generation?
No, not at all.
Interesting. So it takes roughly 2 hours or 1 hour to write it, and then you just ask like Grammarly or something to make sure that it is what it is, and then impactful enough, few words here and there.
I'm a little obsessive when it comes to my newsletter. The last newsletter that I wrote, which is the only newsletter that's publicly available. So I've been writing this newsletter for over 3 years. I call it the Innovator's Brief. I published 156 last week. 155 and before are not available. They're only in people's inboxes. So only 157 is available on Jump to the Future. But if you go look at it, as short as that newsletter is, I wrote it and thought about it and massaged it for 5 days.
Oh, wow. That's commitment.
It doesn't mean that I did it for that's all I was doing for 5 days, but I spent, but that's the thing. Like it's part of the work that I'm doing. It's part of what I'm curious about. It's part of the problem that I'm trying to solve. So I'm working on it much harder. And so if we tactically talk about my process, I start with a Notion file and I just start dropping links and ideas in. Videos, podcasts, things, like all this stuff. Then I look at it and I'm like, what's the story like that I've been noodling on as I've been like looking at all this stuff? And I start to write it. And then eventually a draft forms. And I get it almost to the point where I want to publish it, or I actually do get it to the point where I want to publish it with no AI. Then instead of publishing it, I drop it in and I'm like, proofread this. And inevitably it finds grammatical errors that I would be embarrassed to put out into the world. And the fact that it will proofread it and knock that piece out, that is actually, that's a huge, I don't know. It just helps a ton because proofreading can take, I don't know, a lot of time in and of itself. But
it's existing. Yeah.
in the world of AI generated content, people know what AI generated content looks like. Smart people, without even thinking about it, will get annoyed with a piece of content. I find myself doing this. I look at a piece of content, I start reading it, and I'm like, not interesting. And it's not interesting because it was written by AI.
Interesting. Okay. Like, I want to take the opportunity to also ask Mar because he's a content writer, marketer himself, and you also have newsletter that you have been doing a little bit. Mark, is it similar to your process, or how is it different
Yeah.
from yours?
It's exactly the same, right? Because you have your voice as a writer, you have your style of communicating, you have your, like, you can just say, hey, write about this topic to an AI, and it'll just scrub some very generic sounding things and put it together. But if you have your specific voice, your pacing in your writing, the way you break up ideas, and I have a bit of a meandering writing style. I don't like going straight to it because I think there's a lot of the topics I covered require a bit of context for you to kind of see it from the point of view that I'm presenting the idea at. So AI often helps me come back on the path if I stray a little bit, like if I meander a little bit too much. That's why I use AI as a writing assistant. Maybe draft 3 or 4 gets put into the AI. I say, okay, now let's tighten this up. Reduce the word count by 10% if we can to make it flow a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's very much like someone who comes in later. So I completely vibe with this because writing's such a personal way of expressing yourself, right? I don't want to cede this much autonomy to the AI just yet.
Yeah. You said it perfectly. Is it comes in a little bit later. Maybe you use it at the beginning if you're struggling a little bit with like getting a spark, and you're just like wanting to, like, you need that some partner to banter with about kind of something to, the blank page syndrome can, and this is why I don't start with a blank page. I don't start with a blank page. I start by just dropping links. And so when I look at the page, I don't have a blank page. I have stuff.
That is very interesting. Wow. Okay. I think I'm learning a lot in this one. And selfishly, I'm going to ask more questions around this. I don't know. Let me remind all the viewers what's happening right now one more time. We are celebrating 10 years of Ethereum. So Ethereum has given a lot to the community, and it's time for us to celebrate the builders and creators and everyone who has been on the recipient side and also who are still building in the space. And Jeff, today's guest, he's one of them. We entered crypto space in 2021 alongside NFTs and runs a great marketing group or newsletter called Jump Into the Future. Check it out, jumpintothefuture.com. And what we are talking about is how his agentic experiences these days shapes his work and culture around it. And we're going to convert that experience into AI. But we convert that into Ethereum. But selfishly, I want to ask what your agent stack is these days. Like, what agents are you using? What agents are you not using to create content faster, cleaner, better?
So for me, just myself, I only use ChatGPT for just like the newsletter and again, when I say newsletter, just the editing portion, right? Not the actual writing itself. And really, like, when you see one of my newsletters, like the next one that will come out, you'll see how there's no way AI could have written it. If you know what AI can do, you'll look at it and you'll be like, AI didn't write this. Like, no way. Like,
absolutely.
What prompt would you give AI to write the newsletter? You can't. And so I use AI heavily, or I use ChatGPT. That's kind of my go-to. Now, on the creative side, like the actual asset kind of production side of things, my creative partner, so I Jump to the Future's newsletter and community. What I actually do for work is an agency called Parachute. And so, okay, the work that we do, I use ChatGPT to help me rapidly iterate through strategy frameworks. Okay. And to develop prompts to then give image generation tools to then rapidly create ideas. And so Right now, where AI is helping us on like the agency work is ideation. So what do I mean by that? Not production, okay? Not production, ideation, meaning how can I rapidly iterate a bunch of ideas, have some kind of visual associated with that idea, and then hand that off to my creative partner to run with. What would I have done before AI? I would have sat down, I would have written a marketing brief, a creative brief, some sort of brief on one page. I would have handed it to my creative team. They would read it. They would start creating stuff. Now, instead of just handing them a piece of paper or just words, I can hand them a storyboard that I created. That's not perfect by any means, but my ability to brief another team has leveled up exponentially, so that
Okay,
team,
fair.
The other team. So this could be like a product manager briefing his developers. Okay, cool. The product manager can now whip up a prototype or some sort of feature or blah, 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 whatever. It's not the final thing, but it's ideas. It's whatever, a working prototype, and then use that as the brief for the people that are like the pros at the thing that you want to actually create.
That is very interesting. So if that you're thinking from the efficiency perspective, this is definitely a way to think about it. Now, just minorly switching to what crypto agents are doing. Crypto agents are generally focused on like garnering the engagement in social media and converting into some level of crypto engagement. So have you had a chance to like play around with Bracky, Clanker, or Virtuals, or any one of them? And if you have, what would they be like used for in the context of like brand building or community
I haven't
engagement?
used them.
Oh, cool. Okay. I think you'll be in for a surprise. I know viewers are there, so I'll share my opinion to it for now, and then Mark can jump in a little bit if they want to, and happy to answer questions. But the way I see it, like Bracky is like you can bet on what games, who's going to win the games and everything around that. It's basically brackets in general, but think of in terms of like chat interface into social media. What it does, in my opinion, is it creates community engagement directly at the level of social media, and that creates the flywheel on the public level, where if I post something, all my friends will automatically know. So instead of me making a private bet on bet 365 or anything like that, I'm making a public bet, and now that will make remind other friends to do the same in the bet. So I think that creates more like a flywheel opportunities instead of making private bets. So that's where I am. We can move on to the next topic, but I want to give Marv an opportunity as well because he does play around with this.
So yeah, I love Clanker. I think Clanker was a fun experiment in launching AI agents as part of the content stack as well, right? It's just another touch point from which we can engage with our audience. So yeah, it's something that I quite enjoyed. Of course, the meta has shifted since then somewhat. So we're now in the content coins space, which again is a new meta that I'm yet to fully explore. But in terms of these new technologies to help you build your content stack, not to future proof, but to kind of make the most of the attention spikes that different new technologies are providing. Do you have a handbook on how you navigate this overload of information of all these new products, all these new metas? Like we have the mind share measuring things as well. Like how do you compute all this information? How do you decide, yeah, this is for me, I'd like to focus on this to build an audience, a brand, some connections?
So one, when we're talking about content, I believe all content is moving towards being interactive.
Yep.
Meaning we're totally, like, you had sight, sound, and motion, and that, of course, it's not going to go away, but people need to think in terms of interactive content. And then that interactive content, there could be crypto components a part of that, right? And crypto could enhance the interactive nature of it, especially for something like Bracket. I'm familiar with it. I've been to the website. I think it's cool. I think one of the things about crypto is like, I'm not really a gambler. So like a lot of the tools, like because they're inherently gambling tools,
Yeah,
I just
can't
don't have
use.
motivation to like play around with them. And, I'm not a technical person to be like, oh, I'm going to play around with it to learn like the technical kind of like what's going on here, even like you don't care about gambling. But I think what crypto really enforces, and like what the products that you just kind of talked about is like interactive content, and where like the user is part of creating that content. And when you think of like a social network like Instagram, in a way, it is an interactive content machine, meaning like it's interactive in that the users upload content, but like the content itself is not interactive. Where we're heading is most content is going to be interactive in some capacity, which takes me back to Farcaster. And I think Farcaster Frames is like a really good glimpse into the future of interactive content in feed. And if you read the last innovators brief that I published, I pull a quote from Zuckerberg on a podcast where he says, all social content is moving interactive. And nobody's talking about it. It's like flying super under the radar. But when you look at what you can do with AI, everybody is going to be like, because AI, you just speak to it, and crypto building is going to get easier when you have like AI that will go build the crypto thing that you want to build, and you don't even have to know how to code, where everybody can start to create interactive content because the AI will code it and deploy it for you.
So I'm having trouble visualizing it outside of Farcaster. As Farcaster and mini maps, of course I can, but in general, like, is there an example of like a good interactive content on Twitter or Instagram that a brand did as an experiment?
No. I'm saying it doesn't exist yet.
Oh, okay.
Like there's not interactive content on these social platforms, but if you want to know what's gonna happen in 12 months, you will start to see, you will be scrolling through your feed on these major social platforms, and you will come across content that you can talk to, and it will respond back based off of how you talk to it.
That is very interesting. So when you talked about the Zuckerberg's interview, what kind of examples did he provide in that one? If any, if you remember, none. Okay.
All he said is you'll be scrolling through your feed and you'll interact with the content. And so then when I take that back to Ethereum, I like try to tie it back to crypto.
Yeah.
Okay, you have these like the Apple rules where transactions can happen off the platform, right?
Yeah.
Right. So now imagine Bracket.fun, this crypto project that we're talking about. Now imagine they have a social account. Now imagine you're scrolling through your reels and you come across an interactive piece, like an interactive piece of content from Bracket, where you could talk to it and it understands that you have a Bracket account. It's connected your Instagram to your Bracket account, and you come across the piece of content, and it's like, here's the next game. Do you want to place a bet? I'm doing something super, but I can see a world, it seems like, with the Apple sort of transaction rules where Zuck's talking about interactive content, where you have things that can now happen on chain, where you could,
because of wallets,
with content in your Instagram feed, you could talk to it and it can generate a transaction.
Wow. Okay. I can see that happening.
Yeah.
Super cool. Any questions, Mar? Because again, my thoughts will never end.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really interesting way of seeing it, because as we create more agents and embed further agents in the technology that we use, we can just, like, it was so easy with Clanker just to launch your own token, create liquidity pool, and start trading. Like, that was a great proof of concept that I think it's endless possibilities there. And from the marketing side, how, like, yes, we can see how, open-ended the possibilities of what we can do are, but how do we communicate this to an audience who may not be as excited about this potential so far, without concrete examples? Like, is there a storytelling element that us in the whole build and they'll come part of the world, is there something that we need to learn from earlier big ideas that have been communicated well? Like, what can we take on in terms of garnering the attention, getting those early super fans to help us know that we're building in this right direction? Do you have any tips and pointers for other builders engaging in this space right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think of the old framework. I can't remember what decade it was created in. I think it was the 50s or 60s when an individual outlined the innovators sort of adoption curve, where it's a bell curve. And so you have your 2.5% of any population is like the early adopter.
You basically the adoption curve. It's the adoption curve itself, right?
Yeah.
Like you have an innovator's dilemma, and then there's a chasm.
Not the like the hype cycle.
Okay.
Not the hype cycle. That was Gartner who made the hype cycle, where there's like the peak and then the trough. I'm talking about it's a perfect bell curve.
Okay.
And so
I'm not sure.
So the first, it's the innovation's adoption curve. So for any product that's especially new, there's 2.5% of the population will be the early adopters. These are the people who will try the thing first. They're very different than the late adopters, right? So Chinmay, you're in the 2.5%. Your grandma is a late adopter, right? So Marv, to answer your question, I think what a builder has to understand and do is to look at that bell curve. Right now, crypto is in that 2.5% range. And very few people, what you have to do is you have to go, okay, what do I need to do to effectively gain traction and the trust and the adoption of the early adopter? But what you do to get them is very different than what you need to do to grow up to 10% of the population using your product, to 25% of the population using, to now everybody has, the product or uses the thing. So I think what the builder first needs to do is understand where they are on the adoption curve, therefore who they're talking to and communicating. But then the next thing, which is very super important, is how to jump out of the early adopter phase into the early majority. So you have the innovators that are a very tiny percentage, and then you have the early majority who are a larger group, but they won't adopt the thing until the innovator adopts it and gives it a thumbs up.
Absolutely. So what you're saying is tailor towards the early adopters and make sure that they get it with first 1,000 users or 100 users, and then target the next audience.
Yeah, and the early adopters, they're a weird group of people. Like the way you market to them is like an early adopter. Music is a great analogy. The person that like always finds the new band, and then as soon as that band becomes popular, they don't like that band anymore. Too popular.
Yeah.
Right?
Too cliche.
But most people won't like the new band until the early adopter cool kids give it the stamp of approval. Right.
Fair.
And in technology, culture, everything follows this like adoption curve. And so, that's what you have to do. And right now, what I think is like the tech in and of itself is only usable by the early adopters. And a big part of what needs to happen is the tech needs to just be usable for people that are later in the adoption cycle. Like they just taking it back to music. It's like the music is too complex for the majority of people to appreciate and understand. Therefore, it will never go mainstream.
No, that's fair. You're basically saying stop focusing on your coffees and basically grandmas paying their coffees with crypto, right? Like that's not your audience. Focus on this. And eventually, if their grandsons are buying coffee with crypto, then they will onboard their grandmas.
Yeah. That's a good way to sort of think about it. Yeah.
That's very interesting.
And then
All right.
tactically, when you're talking to that early adopter group, I mean, everybody's using the same kind of tactics, but like that early adopter group, like they actually want to sign up for a wait list. Early adopters want to be first.
Early.
So they
Yeah.
will sign up for a wait list. Your grandma is not going to sign up for a wait list because she doesn't care about being an early adopter.
Fair.
Yeah. And also, since we're talking about these early adopters, I think it's very key to realize that an early adopter today may not be an early adopter in 5 years, 8 years,
No,
right? So it's
totally.
a constantly moving set of goalposts. It's a changing set of demographics. So do you have any tools to help us stay on top of these moving preferences within a market? Is this something that we have the data to help us plan, or are we still working on intuition right now?
I think
Great
you're
question.
largely working on intuition and creativity. I think what the important thing to know is that the early adopters only represent on average 2.5% of a given population. And so you're right also in that, like, even in crypto, I'm an early adopter for some things, but for a lot of stuff, I'm not even an early adopter.
Right. Like just like bracket everything, right? Exactly.
Yeah. Like
Mhm.
I'm going to be way more an early adopter of some sort of like content or social networking type of thing than I am going to be of it like a DeFi or a technology kind of thing.
That is very interesting.
Yeah. So you really have to understand that it's really small. And then you just have to identify like who those people are. I don't think there's a tool to do it. It's like, I think it's more like you go to a big city like New York, and sure, you can have like a map and a guide of the city. But like, if you want to find the hole in the wall restaurant that's like the best secret that nobody knows about, like you're not just going to use a tool or some travel agent to find that. You're only going to do it. Here's how you do it, actually. You go to the coolest restaurant you sit down, and you ask the waiter or waitress, what's the coolest restaurant you know? Then you go to that restaurant and you ask the waiter or waitress, what's the coolest restaurant you know? And you keep doing that. You do it enough. At some point, you'll find the restaurant
Gems.
that the majority of people say is the coolest restaurant they know. And that's the only way to find that restaurant.
And just like that, Jeff has shown us exactly how he interviews all his newsletter subscribers.
So take a product, take a category, and just go find someone in that space that actually works in it. Like, who better to ask what a cool bar is than a bartender?
Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. You know what, my brain is going in the other side, as in like, how can I be the answer to those waiters, right? Like who are those oh, that's KOL marketing, never mind, that's a solved problem. Never mind. Oh my God,
KOLs
that's
have always existed. They've just taken a different form today.
Are y'all familiar with the Dos Equis man, most interesting man in the world?
Yeah.
Tell me more.
That was a banging meme from my college days.
Okay, so here's how I sat next to the woman who came up with that idea.
Nice.
How did she come up with it? Her and her team went to bars, and everybody that was drinking a Dos Equis, they asked them, they started talking to them. Mm-hmm. And then they went and they talked to people who were drinking Corona, and they talked to them. Why do you pick Corona? What do you do for fun? Blah, blah, all this stuff. The main thing that they realized is that everybody who drank a Dos Equis always had an interesting story. And everybody who drank a Corona never really had an interesting story. So did they have some database to figure out? So what did they do? The most interesting man in the world was a concept that represented the people who were already drinking Dos Equis because they always had an interesting story.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know this meme. I need to check it out.
Yeah.
That's great.
So,
That's great.
so Marv, to answer your question, it's that kind of conversation. How do you find the best bar? How do you come up with a campaign for a brand? You go talk to them and you have those like one-on-one kind of personal conversations, and you try to triangulate that like circle and that idea. And you do it really through one-on-one high touch conversations.
I think this
Amazing.
will speak so much about, the product market fit, the evasive product market fit in crypto, right? And you've just given us the most simple answer. Just talk to the people who you think are using your products and ask them why they're not using your products.
Yeah. Why they're not, what do they use? What's their favorite thing?
Absolutely. I'm going to put this in practice right now, actually. And then, Jeff, who do you think we should invite to this celebration? Give me 3 names.
Oh, who should be one of the next guests?
Yeah, like give me 2 or 3 names that you want to listen to that is not the common answer by everyone else. Like, don't give me Vitaliks of the world. Give me 3 people that you think are underappreciated, and I'm going to go and hunt them down and we'll invite them.
And we'll clip this video and send it to them saying that you've given your seal of approval.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
I mean, the number one person that I always love to talk to is Luke Doucette, LG Doucette.
Yeah.
LG from he created the first Mint. I think he's highly entertaining to watch and listen to. And then he's also like super smart, says a lot of smart stuff. So
amazing.
He's way up there kind of on the list. And then the crew over at the Milk Road, I think they're awesome.
Yeah, I met Jay during Consensus. Awesome. Great guy.
Yeah.
And as well as talk. Yeah, they're such fantastic communicators. Yeah, I love them. And top tier newsletters as well. I think they deserve a shout out.
I mean, honestly, and their story, I'm not going to tell their story, but their story of how they acquired the Milk Road is awesome. So,
okay, nice.
Because they didn't start it. They didn't start it.
I was a subscriber pre-acquisition, actually.
Pre-acquisition, and they didn't acquire it. They're the third owner.
Huh. Okay. All right. That's a
all right. We have a story to hunt, basically.
Yeah. Nice.
That's amazing. We are coming to an end. Marv, do you want to take over?
Yeah. So, Jeff, do you have any final parting words for the audience? I think you've spat so much knowledge over the last hour. Is there any little way to just tie this all in a pretty little bow? Give a final tidbit that's ringing in our guests' ears as we close this?
Yeah, I think the thing is, like, we're playing with a lot of new technology, and we're inventing the future. And I would just really encourage people to take a step back and sharpen their their true strategy chops and think truly objectively about like what creates value, and where does a value accrue in terms of like a project or a business, and like really understand that at a strategic level and spend more time on that. And then as people are figuring out how to build products, because I just think that I just, after 4 years, I just see people building cool things and using the tech, but like when you really look at it, like they're just these like they're not rooted in long-term strategy, company building, organization building, like building a sustainable business, really. And like Ethereum itself is like, I don't know what Ethereum is. It's like a digital nation. That's the thing that I've always kind of come back to.
Network stat.
Yeah, and that's cool. But like everything that gets built on top is more like a business. And so in that sense, I think the crypto builders need to spend more time thinking about business strategy and then how to build. And honestly, the projects that have been most successful, I think, have done that. Coinbase being one of them. I think they've actually truly look at like take the lens of good business strategy and then say, okay, what can be done based off of the tech of where we are now. And if more people do that, I think that will actually accelerate the industry more than just inventing, like building a project that like actually can't sustain itself as a business.
Super awesome. Super valuable.
Thanks so
Awesome.
much.
Well, I enjoyed it. This has been fun. It's actually not that I didn't think it was going to be fun. I thought it was going to be fun, but it was way more fun than I thought it was going to be.
I'm glad.
Thank you.
Glad. Absolute pleasure having you on, Jeff. Thank you so much for all of everyone watching. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you had a fantastic lunch break listening to wisdom about how we can market the future. So join us again next week. This is Marv and Chinmay signing off. Our guest, Jeff, please follow him on all the socials. We're going to be posting everything in the uploads as well that come along afterwards. So make sure you're following, make sure you're subscribed, make sure your notifications are on so you catch us on the next one. For now, this is the 10 Years of Ethereum team signing off. You all take care. Bye-bye.
And it's